Hello, and welcome back for part 11 now of this series on creating games using Construct 2. So we've been working on a game, a platformer game. We jump around, we dodge bullets, we catch gold to earn extra points. And in part 10, we just added a simple background to our game. So let me open up the game really quickly and run it so we can just refresh on what we've been working on. Here it is. Alright, so it's got the background, it's got the start screen with the play button. Press the play button and we go into our game. And then if we lose, we go back to the start screen, right? It's what we'd expect in a game. So now, and as you can see in the title, we're going to work on adding high scores. And not only are we going to add high scores, we're going to add permanent high scores that will persist even if the user closes out the game completely and comes back to play again. And the way we're going to do this is a thing called WebStorage. So there's a WebStorage object in Construct 2 that allows you to store permanent data. And it does it in the form of a key value pair. So you say you want to store a name and a value, and that when you can reference that value, or you can use the name reference to get the value, get the corresponding value, if that makes sense. So to get started on our game layout, or actually our start layout, we're just going to double click and then find the web storage object. It's at the top here, so just click and add it. And let's go into the game event sheet, or the start event sheet. One second. Alright, so basically what the logic is if the score exists, if we've already stored it in the web storage, we want to go ahead and get it when we start our layout. And what we'll do is go back to the start layout, and I'm going to add in a score text here. So the one we've already had, I'm just going to drag it in, and instead of saying score, I'm going to have this one say high score, because this is going to be the high score for the game. There we go. And now in our event sheet, we're going to check to see if we've already stored that high score. And if we have, we're going to set that high score to that score value. If not, we'll just leave it at high score 0. So let's see. So to check to see if that score exists, we want to do it when we start the layout. So let's add an event and do system on start of layout, so when the game starts. And then we can come in here, if we right click to the left of on start of layout, we can add a sub event or another condition. It's kind of two different ways to do it. If we add another condition, any of the actions, the corresponding actions will only be executed if both it's on start of layout and then the key exists. If we add a sub event, we could do something in on start of layout and then test the condition, the event for the sub event, and have its corresponding action. So let's add sub event. I know that's probably kind of confusing. And let's do a web storage and local key exists. And then this local key, remember we're using name value pair, so this key is going to be the name, and we're going to call it high score, and done. So now if you see for the on start of layout, we can add actions there, and then we can also add actions if that web storage local key exists. So if that local key high score exists, then we want to go in and set the text of our score text. So we'll set text, and we're going to set it to high score, colon space, and then I want to use the ampersand to say we want to use a variable. And then we're going to use the web storage object. So it's web storage, and then it's local value. And then the parameter is going to be high score, which is the name of where we stored it. So web storage.local value giving a parameter of high score. Done. And now if this web storage does not already have the high score, so we can right click next to it and come in and add else. So the way this logic is working, it's saying when you start the layout, execute whatever actions are here. Then, if that local key exists for high score, set the text to high score and whatever that value is. If it doesn't exist, then we want to just go ahead and create it. So let's add action and web storage, and let's see, set local value. And the key here, again, still using high score, so we're going to set high score, and then the value is going to be 0 because we're just starting from the beginning. And since we have already set the high score to 0 in the properties, we don't need to come in and change it in the event sheet. So we only need to update it if that high score exists. So that handles initializing this high score, but now we want to obviously add and keep track of our high score from our game. So let's go to our game event sheet. And each time we end the game, we want to test whether or not our current score is greater than what's stored as the high score, right? So let's see. We've got 3 different places where we can lose. So we've got the go to start layout, go to start layout, and go to start layout. And then in each one of those, we want to check whether or not our score is greater than high score, and then update it if it is. So instead of doing that 3 different times, we're going to add what's called a function to our game. And a function is where we can declare certain actions that we want to execute, and then from each of these go to start layout, instead of writing all that logic for the score 3 times, we can just call that function once in each of these and have that code be executed. So let's go back to the game layout, and let's double click to add the function object. And I think it's at near the bottom maybe. Where is it? Let me start typing for it. Alright, there it is, function. So insert, and you don't need to do anything else, just insert. And then we want to go back into our event sheet and come down to the bottom and add event and choose function. And then on function, so this event is when this function is called, and we're going to call it end game. Done. And then this is where we need to add the logic to update our high score if our local score, our current score, is greater than the high score. So let's right click and add another sub event, and let's choose system compare variable, and we want to see if score is greater than WebStorage dot local value, and then again that parameter is going to be the name high score. So if score, let me resize this a bit. If score is greater than the high score that's stored in WebStorage, then we want to set, so WebStorage dot let's see, clear set local value, and we want to set local value, the key is going to be high score again, and the value is going to be the current score. So we want to set that score. And then we also want to go to the start layout. So system, go to layout, and go to start layout. And then if that score is not greater than, so let's add an else here. So right click to the left of that event and add else. And if else, then we can just copy down the go to start layout and do nothing with the score. So now the last thing we need to change is, instead of having these 3 things go to start layout, we want to call this endgame function, which will take care of that for us. So let's double click this to edit it. Let's go back, and choose function and call function, and we want to call endgame. Alright, and then let me copy that and paste it, and then get rid of the go to start layout, and then paste it here as well, and go to start layout. Get rid of go to start layout. Alright, so that was a lot of work. Let's run and see what we have. So we're in our game. Let me refresh this. So in the game, lose, we go home. Our high score is 40, so let's play again. And let me lose really quickly. High score is still 40. And now let me try to get a score higher than 40. So I've got 85. Let me lose now. And I've got 115 is my new high score. Right, so you see it's being updated. And just to kind of test this, let's copy this URL. Let's close that page. Let's open a new page and paste that URL. And now if we die, we should still see the high score is 115 from our previous place. So that's what permanent storage does, or how it works with the web storage object. So you can store any kind of things in this web storage, just as long as it's a name value pair. You can store what level the player is on, if he's gotten any unlockable items, stuff like that, or just the high score like we're doing, and display it on the start screen. So that wraps up creating high scores with web storage. So stay tuned for the next coming videos.